thank you for every kind blessing, for pouring out your Holy Spirit and giving us rain during the time of the latter rain. We ask for your guidance during this class, that the material being presented will be a blessing for each of us. And bless our efforts as we make ourselves better fit vessels to be lifted up as an ensign at midnight by obeying the laws of health. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. So, hi. Everyone's got 3 sets of notes in front of them. You have sunshine, exercise, and brain health.
The order you're going?
I guess so. I'm hoping I can get into brain health. I probably won't get to finish it today, but I'll do my best. The notes, sunshine, Henry did them, so you got pictures on them. You'll know the difference between his notes and my notes because he's helping me out.
He's got a smile on his sunshine.
So sunshine and skin. Vitamin D deficiency. We're just going to go into some points about vitamin D. When ultraviolet rays hits the skin, they convert a form of cholesterol just under the skin to vitamin D. Note that it is cholesterol that is converted into vitamin D. So we're going to hopefully get into some detail about that. The cholesterol is converted into vitamin D. A person can be vitamin D deficient because they are on a cholesterol lowering medication. I don't know if you know anyone who is on that kind of drug. There's 2 types of drugs that lowers cholesterol. Lipitor and another one, I can't remember the name of it. And when you know someone who's on a lowering cholesterol drug, they are not getting vitamin D. They're going to be deficient in that. So that's a very big deal. It takes 2 hours after the sun exposure for the conversion into vitamin D to happen. So if you jump into a shower just after getting sun exposure and wash off your skin with soap, you scrub off the oil off your skin, you won't get any vitamin D absorption. So it's going to go into detail about how long to sit in the sun, when to sit in the sun, what time of day and everything. But if you're in the sun for that 15 minutes and you're doing this as part of your, building up your body, and you're getting sun therapy, and you go and jump in the shower and wash it all off, it does you no good. So it's important to let it absorb in your pores. A person only needs to get the face exposed in the sun for 15 minutes a day to get all the vitamin D for that day.
Wow.
On cloudy days, it's not possible to get the recommended D as you would need. If a person gets 30 minutes or more sun exposure, the body will stop producing the vitamin D, and it could have a negative effect on your body in not getting that vitamin D. Now that's interesting, which I just learned that. So if you're in the sun longer than that 15 minutes recommended at the right time of the day, which is recommended early in the morning, but if you're in the sun longer than 15 minutes, then your body is, if you get like that 15 minutes and then prolonging that, your body doesn't absorb the vitamin D.
What if you have a full face beard?
Shave it off. Maybe you're just going to get your cheeks, your nose, and...
Well, what happens, for example, if I take a walk in the morning, I get my vitamin D, and then I go back, I don't know, like working in the garden afterwards. Does it stop? Does it start again to produce vitamin D?
Yeah, if you're working in the garden in the heat of the day, wear a hat because you don't want to be overexposed to the sun. You'll get burned too.
Okay.
Just one of the comments from the internet audience is, if you actually could summarize the question and just repeat it for their sake.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. You mentioned that yesterday. I didn't have a question though. I was just reading points.
Not your question, but when someone asks you a question.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you.
When someone asks you a question, just kind of repeat it.
Okay.
Sum it up
Okay, so
before you answer.
Katya, for the Zoom audience, asked a question. She asked, well, okay, if you go for a walk for 15 minutes in the morning, early morning walk, get your vitamin D, and then work in the garden afterwards. I suggested wear a sun hat because you're going to be in the garden at a hotter period of the day, probably, right? Like when the sun is higher in the sky, you want to wear a hat and cover up so you don't get overexposed in the sun and then burn your skin on top of that, right?
Well, will that process start again?
No, it's yeah, huh?
So we get it once a day.
Ye-
It's produced once a day in our skin. Is that?
Let's read on and see. It's my understanding it's in the morning. Morning hours are best. Now, some studiers say that you can do it later in the day, not during the high peak of the sun. And what is that, from 12 noon to 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. when the sun is at its peak? You want to avoid it then. There's some studies that say you can go before the sun cools down in the evening, like around 5 or 4:30 or 6 or something like that. I don't know the ballpark figure, but most researchers say it's 15 minutes early morning and then allow that to absorb.
Okay.
Because there's a process for the vitamin D to process through your system. You need other things too to make it actually absorb and get into the cells. Joe, did you have a question? No. Okay. Okay, so anti-cancer. Vitamin D is an anti-cancer vitamin. Research is showing that vitamin D can stop cancer cells from developing, and even reverse them. Interesting note that sunshine also annihilates fungus. Okay, that's interesting, but let's leave that out of there for a minute. So vitamin D is an anti-cancer vitamin, and it can stop from cancer from developing and also reverse cancer cells. I know we're going to probably talk about skin cancer here too. Vitamin D and calcium. Vitamin D is essential for the assimilation of calcium in the body. When calcium gets into the body, all other minerals are attracted to it, riding on its back. If you can picture a horse in your head with calcium on top of it, this is how I'm thinking about it, because when you're in order for it to absorb into your body the vitamin D, you need calcium. Calcium is the ingredient that we need, and we need to absorb it properly as well in order for the vitamin D to be assimilated. Calcium is essential for the bones and especially essential for the epidemic of osteoporosis. Statistically, osteoporosis affects Caucasian women from a European descent, is my understanding. And unless anyone's heard any other statistics about that. Bones and teeth need calcium to make them strong and healthy. The body can only access calcium through vitamin D absorption. So calcium, we know how important calcium is to bones and such, but it's only through vitamin D that the calcium, so basically we need both calcium and vitamin D in order for both to be substantial and be absorbed into the body.
Is there a difference between men and women on absorption?
I don't think so. Skin trauma by sun exposure. Skin trauma is generally defined as skin injuries by cuts, tears, scrapes, bruises, and burns. Shh. Sorry. Skin trauma is not an issue by sun exposure if you stay dehydrated. If you're not a coffee drinker, if you do not have margarine for your breakfast because it comes out as a toxic substance in your skin which reacts to the sun, I talked about that yesterday, if sun exposure is not more than 15 minutes. So it's talking about what a typical skin trauma is. It's known as an injury by a cut, tear, scrape, or bruise, or a burn. And also it's not, if you're burning your skin by the sun, then that would be a trauma as well. But if you're in the sun for 15 minutes in the morning getting your vitamin D, it's good. But you got to make sure you're not a caffeine drinker. It says coffee, but caffeine inhibits it. You don't take margarine on your toast in the morning, right? And those kind of things. And you got to be you have to be hydrated. It also to absorb the vitamin D. If you're dehydrated, not drinking enough water, then that's also going to cause sunburning more often.
I think in the notes that should be hydrated, not dehydrated. You stay hydrated,
Yeah,
that middle of that bottom
that's why I
paragraph.
said hydrated.
Yeah, because that's just a typo, just scratch.
I have to also say that in my notes, and I apologize, spell check changed some of my words. So I have been correcting some of it. And if you see any other typos like that, please let everybody know. I'll say it verbally and then fix it on your paper. Going on page 2. It is clear that overexposure and underexposure to the sun can cause vitamin D deficiencies. A suggestion in getting the right amount of sun exposure is 10 minutes exposure on the front of the body and 10 minutes of exposure on the back of the body twice a day. Oh, there you go. Over several days, little by little, the body will gain a nice tan, which is a good prediction against sun cancer. Now, I said 15 minutes a day because
Sun cancer or skin cancer, right?
it says sun cancer. Maybe that was a typo. Cancer, skin cancer. I said 15 minutes a day. It's saying 10 minutes. You want to take it into that 10, 15 minute slot there.
Maybe that should be good protection.
Well, when you start developing the tan,
Yeah, because it says prediction that might need to be protection. You think?
yes, of course.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Protection.
Sunshine and eyes. Okay, so we can strengthen our eyes. Straining strengthens your eyesight. The only time that straining doesn't strengthen your eyesight is if you're tired. Many people strain their eyes very late, or their eyes late at night when they should be asleep. Far better would it be to strain your eyes early in the morning by reading. And this is an exercise to get your eyes stronger. People like me and others who wear glasses, right? Your eyes are connected to the brain, and when the brain is tired, so are the eyes. As soon as a person starts to wear glasses, they begin to deteriorate and become lazy and weaker. In getting rest, your eyes recover and are strengthened. You can also strengthen your eyes by allowing them to be exposed to the sunlight, but never directly, which is also benefit to the brain. So I'm going to talk about eye exercise and how to get the vitamin D absorbed through the eyes.
So does that mean that you should use sunglasses if you say never directly?
Yeah.
It means that you don't look at the sun.
So Douglas's question was, should we wear sunglasses or should we not, because does that interfere with getting the sun on the eyes? We shouldn't wear sunglasses. If we're trying to get the vitamin D, you want to take even your eyeglasses off and you want to remove your sunglasses and you want to do the certain You're never going to look directly at the sun, right, because that's obvious damage. But it's going to explain in here how to do the exercises with your eyes so you can get the absorption.
Allie,
Yeah.
what about the concern that UV rays cause cataracts?
I don't know.
That's one reason wearing sunglasses.
Yeah, but here it's talking about 10 minutes. I mentioned 15 minutes of just early morning exposure to the sun. And then later in the day when it's cooler and it's not in the high peak of the sun time that you're going to be exposed.
Yeah, and myself, I drive for a job, so I have to wear glasses.
Of course, yeah.
In the truck for the glare.
No, I get that. And I have prescription sunglasses too when I drive because I just can't. But that's in the peak of the day. But the early morning hours, like today, when did the sun rise? At 5, so I go out. I didn't go out, but I should have maybe at 6 o'clock or 7 when the sun is early morning. for that 15 minutes.
Okay.
10 to 15 is what it's saying. I'm saying 15, it's saying 10. Okay. Eye exercise. The sun blinking exercise is done by looking at 4 points of the compass and blinking your eyes rapidly for 3 to 5 seconds. Look once to the north. I don't know where I know that's the east because I saw the sunrise this morning. So northeast, southwest. Look once to the north of the sun for about 15 degrees above it while blinking the eyes 3 to 5 seconds. Then to the right, to the east, then below to the south, and finally left to the west of the sun itself. Look again, don't look directly at the sun, since part of the retina that we want to irrigate with the UV rays and other rays of the sun exists on the side of the eye, that's your white, not in the center. It also helps to prevent any damage to the eyes themselves, which is why it's done before 9 a.m. and after 4 p.m. in the evening when the sun is not too strong, but the amount of UV rays is quite sufficient. To result is a significant benefit. Eyeglasses and contact lens robs you of the energy by blocking some of the ultraviolet rays that travel through the eyes to the pineal gland in the brain. So you can practice those exercises maybe at 7 in the morning tomorrow. Also, there's another exercise that I understand is if you stand where the sun is shining directly in front of it, remove your glasses, close your eyes, don't close your eyes, but look down, and just like where the crack of the eye is just exposed there, allowing the sun rays to just penetrate and sit on that spot because you're not directly looking at it, and you can feel the warmth there. For that 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you're just getting direct absorption there, right into your eyes. Page 3, understanding the eye better. Some cells in the retina contain a photopigment melanopsin. The signals from these cells don't go to the visual cortex for sight, but instead go to the areas of the brain that regulates our sleep cycle and pupil size. Melanopsin absorbs blue light. Research shows that when a reasonable amount of blue light is absorbed, tactical reasoning increases. Mathematical abilities also increase. The light with the most blue light in the sunlight, oh, did I read that right? Sunlight. Light and dark signals are fed through the optic nerve control system in the brain, where your body clock is located and communicates with the pineal gland. The pineal gland releases serotonin, which makes you feel so good on a sunny day. Everybody feels good on a sunny day anyways, right? After long winters up here. Pineal gland also helps you to sleep better. The pineal gland works with many functions in the brain, and for this reason it needs to be stimulated with sunlight. So in the winter time, I know there's those blue lights you can buy and plug them in, right? And they shine. They're good for depression or people who have
SAD.
what?
SAD,
Yeah.
seasonal affective
Exactly. Okay.
The light.
Huh?
You're talking about the light,
Yeah, the blue light.
the therapeutic
Pardon me? Yeah, it's got an.
light.
Yeah, and that's like for us who live up here in the north, right?
That was my question. How do we do here?
You can buy those. Yeah.
That's interesting because there's blue stars.
Blue stars?
Heavens throughout the universe, there's blue stars, so they shine a lot brighter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Dr. Neil Nedley has proven that people with depression have their circadian rhythm out of sync. To reset the circadian rhythm, allow your eyes to experience the first hour of sunlight in the day. Close your eyes and expose your face to the sunlight. The sun rays will penetrate your eyes through the skin. increasing circulation to the eyeball and also increase eyesight. So there are some pretty good exercises. And if we don't, I guess we're stuck wearing glasses until. Summary: sunlight exposure through the eyes, avoiding direct light of the sight to the sun, improves your eyesight and also impacts how much melatonin your brain produces. And melatonin is what tells your brain when it's time to sleep. When it gets dark, you start producing melatonin, so you are ready to sleep in about 2 hours. Yeah. Okay. It's hard though. Sometimes I take a long time to fall asleep. My mind's racing. So that's not a good thing. We need to try to put all the stuff that's in our head that makes us constantly think off to the side and really try to get that sleep before midnight, especially. Is it 3 hours before midnight? Is how it is. Sunlight increases the levels of serotonin in the brain, which is associated with improved moods and feeling awake. Not surprisingly, serotonin levels are highest in summer, making people feel better and have more energy. Relieve some stress and depression by taking a daily walk outside in the fresh air and soak up some morning and evening sunshine and enjoy the blessings of life. And it has a little snippet of cautions. When you lie in the sun, make sure you're well hydrated, stay away from caffeine, have a nourishing breakfast, and don't lay in the sun too long. And on the back is just a brain map on the circadian rhythm. You can have a look at that on your own time. I don't want to walk through it. It looks pretty smart. So any questions about sun, light, sunshine, eyes?
Still about the light, because here in Canada we don't have so much light during the winter. Those therapeutic light, do they produce enough vitamin D? Oh, because of that, should I take a supplement?
Well, a supplement, I never did talk about supplements, did I?
No, that's my question.
I'm just thinking maybe in the wintertime up north we should take supplements, because I don't know that you can get vitamin D sufficient in those blue lights, if you can get vitamin D at all in those blue lights, to be honest. I'm not really sure about the details of that. I know it's good for depression, right? But the supplements, yeah, there's a company that I found in the US, it's 50,000 UIs. Can't find that high here in Canada. It's vegan caps. They're pretty good. One a week, not every day type of thing. It's like a biotech. I can find it online and show you what I got. But I'm not faithful taking vitamin D in the wintertime either. I got to get more faithful with that. But yeah, but in this now when it's springtime and summertime, take advantage of this.
And when you do take it in the winter, try and take it with your calcium, magnesium.
Calcium and magnesium, because you need your magnesium
Absorption.
to absorb the calcium, and you need the calcium to absorb the vitamin D. So
Okay, so I can
that's very important, yeah.
A lot of the cheaper drugstore type calcium does not have D, so you might want to go to a health food store
And get
because those
quality.
ones usually have the D with it,
Okay.
with calcium, magnesium,
Yeah.
and D together.
Yeah.
And is it possible to get the calcium and the magnesium just from the food, and then you just do the drops, or like the?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah. But it just helps absorb each other.
You,
the
yeah,
calcium,
you,
magnesium.
yeah, and I really thought I would have had that information in here, because I remember writing it down in my original notes, but it's true. So let's go on to exercise. Okay. These are my notes, no pictures. Movement is life, and strength comes by exercise, and activity is the condition of life. Stagnant pools of blood breed disease in the body because activity is not necessary part of most people's lives. Many are getting sick because their bodies are not moving. The blood is the river of life because wherever it flows, it brings life to that area of the body. If the blood is healthy, it nourishes the body. If the blood is unhealthy, then the body is diseased. The blood brings nutrition, water, oxygen, and takes away waste from every single part of the body to every extremity. One of the problems is when the body is not moving as it should, the river of life doesn't reach the extremities as it should. So if we're not exercising or getting that walk in a day or whatever, weightlifting or whatever it takes that we know to get the blood going, if we're not doing it, then it doesn't move. So what does it mean to have cold feet? It means that there's no river of life flowing freely to the feet, poor circulation. Because the blood is warm, so any part of the body that is cold is an indication that the blood is not freely flowing to that area. When the blood vessels are cold, it vasoconstricts, which means it tightens up, and we'll talk a lot about that when we get into hydro. And if blood is not flowing in the area, it means death. That can start to happen in those parts of the body. Also, you are cold because you're also not wearing enough clothing. That's a given, right? Okay. I should do a very... Oh, this is from Spirit of Prophecy Council Guidance? Child Guidance. I should do a very unwise thing to enter a cool room when in a perspiration. I should show myself an unwise steward to allow myself to sit in a draft and thus expose myself so as to take the cold. I should be unwise to sit with cold feet and limbs and thus drive back the blood from the extremities to the brain or eternal organs. I should always protect my feet in damp weather. I should eat regularly the most healthful foods which will make the best quality of blood. I should not work intemperately if it's in my power to avoid doing so. And when I violate the laws of God has established in my being, I am to repent and reform and place myself in the most favorable condition under the doctors God has provided, pure air, pure water, and the healing precious sunlight. Amen. Here's another quote from her. She says, "Little boys also are dressed so as to leave their lower limbs with far less protection than their upper part of the body." Now, she's talking about little boys, but you can say the same for little girls, and we can also say the same for us as adults. I think the fashion back then, they were wearing shorts, right, and their legs were exposed. The limbs being remote from the center of circulation demand greater protection instead of less. The veins which convey the blood to the extremities are large, providing the flow of sufficient quantity of blood to afford warmth and nutrition. But when the blood is chilled from these parts, the veins contract and the circulation is retarded. Not only do these extremities suffer from cold, but through lack of nutrition, the limbs do not attain their natural development. A good circulation purifies the blood and secures health, while poor circulation renders the blood impure and induces congestion of the vital organs. CTBH. I don't know where that's found. 91.2 for Zoom.
I think it's Christian Temperance and Bible Health.
Oh, hygiene. Bible hygiene. You're right. Thank you. Anything you can do to ensure the blood gets proper circulation to every part of the body means healing to that part of the body, because there is healing in the blood, and perfect health requires perfect circulation. And Christian health, right? CH 92, is that it? Or something else? Pardon me? Yeah, you can read this quote if you want.
Or Councils on Health.
Councils on Health, yeah.
Another evil which custom fosters is the unequal distribution of the clothing. so that while some parts of the body have more than is required, others are insufficiently clad. The feet and limbs, being remote from the vital organs, should be especially guarded from cold by abundant clothing. It is impossible to have health when the extremities are habitually cold, for if there is too little blood in them, there will be too much in other portion of the body. Perfect health requires a perfect circulation, but this cannot be had while 3 or 4 times as much clothing is worn on the body, where the vital organs are situated, as upon the feet and limbs.
Thank you.
Some health and function.
Okay, thanks. So that also means our toes need to be as warm as the rest of our body. You ever wake up in the morning or in the day and you have cold feet?
I have a testimony for that. Because oftentimes when you're just sitting and reading at home and you realize, oh, my feet are getting cold. So what you do, even if it's 20 below, you get dressed and you go out for a walk.
Absolutely.
And when you come back, your feet are toasty warm.
Mm-hmm.
It works every time. It seems backwards, but it works. If your feet are getting cold, go for a walk or even do some exercise in the house if you can't. go
Exactly.
out.
Hard if you're driving though.
Yeah, it's hard when you're driving, yeah.
What do you do with your feet? Like
Well,
chop or something?
But if you get your blood circulating, even like lift something heavy or a weight in one arm, there are things to get your blood circulating.
I'll read the next paragraph.
Okay, go ahead.
There's that little line.
Like really loud though, please.
That means our toes need to be warm as the rest of our body. When we are sleeping at night, everything slows down in the body. The blood slows down to a quiet pace. When you wake up in the morning, the blood would have pooled in the internal organs, and the best time to exercise in the morning is in the mornings, because it brings the blood down to the lower extremities and basically sets up a pace for your body to run all throughout the day. Even all throughout the day. Even if you are going to be sitting most of the day, the fact that you have done an early morning exercise workout means that you have raised the heart rate at a pace that your body will run throughout the day.
Thank you. So there answers your question about driving all day. As long as you get your 30 minutes workout in the morning early, after you've gotten your sun exposure, you're good. That's your maintenance, and we're going to talk about that. For exercise to be a powerful healing remedy, it must be done in the morning and it must be done regularly. Our bodies have been designed to be in daily activity. For exercise to be a preservation, it must be done frequently. 30 minutes a day will keep your body in good working order. It's a maintenance program, that 30 minutes. And 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. Does someone want to read that, please?
What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's.
Thank you. It takes a lot of work to build a house, but it doesn't take a lot of work to maintain it. 30 minutes of exercise a day will keep your body in good working order. 1 hour of exercise a day will preserve major problems from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. If you're sad or discouraged or overwhelmed, put on your sneakers and go for a jog, a walk, or a bike ride. Whatever it takes. It does help. Intensity. There are periods of intensity during your workout and periods of rest. And that's what I was talking about the other day. I'll get into that when I finish this paper. We'll talk about that more. So when you do a workout, I didn't add in here there's a warm-up, but there's an intensity and then there's a recover period of rest. Rest doesn't mean stop working out. It just means giving your part of the body a recovering time. Anyone go to a gym here where there's a circuit And there's about 20 different machines, and they start at 1 and finish at 20, and you have a little paper and you tick off, and you go and work every machine. You work at every different part of your muscle, like you'll do the calves, or you do up front, or the arms, or the pecs, or something. So when you're using one machine, you're giving the rest to the rest, and then you go to another machine. And then another way of doing it also is, I think it's 48 hours of rest time between muscle parts when you do an intense workout. So one day you'll work out your legs, the next day you'll work out your arms, the next day you work out your chest and back, and you kind of do a rotation like that. And that's what I started when I started with my personal workout time. And then you have interval. Interval training has become the go-to workout in recent years, as experts have discovered an effective and an efficient way to train. It's an excellent way to burn more calories, build endurance quickly, and make workouts more interesting, because you're alternating high-intensity exercise with recovery periods. And it's the best. It's really, this interval training is the most beneficial way for your body to get.
Could that be like you're going for a walk and then you run, and you go for a walk?
Exactly, like, or if you got a nice hill, you're going to run up that hill for 30 seconds and put your most into it for that 30 seconds.
Flat spots, right?
Yeah, well, if you don't have a hill, then sure, on the flat spot. While steady state cardio workouts have their place, interval training tends to be a more efficient way to train. Working at an uncomfortable level for just 30 to 60 seconds puts your body into a calorie burning mode, so you can have shorter workouts, and that gives you a little more bang for your buck. And here's just a few benefits of this high-intensity workout. When it was saying just 30 to 60 seconds, so that's a minute, 60 seconds, and 30 seconds is half a minute. And if you just give it your all, like, it hurts, your body's screaming, stop, stop, but you're just pushing it to the max, right, that 30 seconds. That's what this is saying. You're going to get the best workout, your best bang for what you're doing for your body. You're going to lose weight, you're calorie burning, and you're building up your stamina. So it burns more calories. The harder you work, the more calories you burn overall. A plus for your goal to help you lose weight. It increases your endurance more quickly. Working at a higher level, even if it's for short periods of time, increases your endurance. You'll find your other workouts get easier because of your interval workouts. And what I've noticed when I started doing this a while back is I was really clumsy when I started. I had no coordination. I was trying to do jumping jacks, and even my jumping jacks were all sloppy, right? I was just so uncoordinated. But the more I did this, and then I did my 30-second high-intensity workout, I had gotten faster, I'm stronger, I've lost a lot of weight, still working at it, but also the clumsiness went away. I had order in what I was doing. It's really cool. So we'll talk about that after. Also, it increases your afterburn. If you really go all out, your body will burn more calories for a period of time, and your workout to get your body back into pre-exercise state. Your afterburn, no pain, no gain. You've heard that story before? Mm-hmm. And that's what you're looking for, to build up. That pain is the lactic acid buildup in your muscles, and just feel that that's good stuff. Add some variety to your workout. If you usually do the same thing all the time, the same pace, the same level, the same intensity, interval training can add a breath of fresh air to your workouts. So if we just go for walks every day, speed up that walk. Do speed walking for 30 seconds. Just push your legs and do, and if you can't, and some people have knee problems, hip problems, right? Maybe ankle problems, they can't. You can go swimming, you can go bike riding, you can do other stuff, you can be creative. on how to do that. More time efficient. With exercise, the harder you work, the shorter your workouts will generally be. It's possible to get a great cardio workout in just 20 to 30 minutes, with interval training leaving you more time for other things in your life. And then you'll have the energy to do more other things in your life at the same time. Wake the muscle up by doing a 30-second intense workout. If walking up a hill, then jog instead of just walking. 30 seconds does not sound like a long time, but it's a long time, like I said, as your body is screaming 'cause it's hurting. The pain you feel the next day are little microfibers that you tear, and they are now being rebuilding in a stronger way through your muscles there. Building muscle mass. The metabolic rate has just woken up and is ready for the fuel when you eat healthy food.
And then it rebuilds, and you tear your muscle and rebuild.
It's little micro tears, yeah, and that's the pain you feel. And it's also known as lactic acid buildup too, which when you drink some water, it will flush that out. We'll talk about that after. Regarding weight loss, 80% is diet. It's important in dropping unhealthy carbohydrates and increase fiber, protein, healthy fats. This way you are getting the fuel that is not going to be stored. It will go directly into the cell. Feeding the muscle cell, 20% exercise is all you need. So 80% is diet. We eat nutritiously 2 meals a day. You got a good breakfast like a king, and then you got your second meal of the day like a queen, and some people take a third, but you don't need a third. It's better not to take a third, but some people might have to. And then it's saying here that 20% is the exercise is all you need. When you achieve that 30 seconds of intensity during your workout routine, which increases the body's ability to burn fat, the protein and calories and carbs. You can change the metabolic rate of your cells so they can become fat burners, to burn the fat, the excess fat, and to strengthen the muscles. If you're eating adequate protein, you will never lose muscle. So if you're eating enough adequate protein in your diet, your legumes, your nuts. Pardon me?
Leafy greens.
Can you, sorry? Leafy greens, dark leafy greens, kale. Yeah, high in protein, exactly. If you're getting enough protein, you're never going to lose the protein. You're just going to keep, it's in your body. You got to keep up that protein, right? The good stuff.
Even the healthy carbs, whole grains have protein as well as vegetables have protein, just in smaller amounts.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so HGH is human growth hormone. It's an important hormone produced by the pituitary gland, also known as growth hormones. It plays a key role in growth, body composition, cell repair, and metabolism. Also boosts muscle growth, strength, and exercise performance while helping you recover from your injury and diseases. Lower HGH, human growth hormone, may negatively impact your quality of life, increase your risk of disease, and make you gain fat. Having optimal levels is especially important during weight loss. For recovery from injury, when you're trying to boost your athletic performance. Your diet and lifestyle choices can have a huge effect on your human growth hormone levels. Human growth hormone also triggers an enzyme that directly goes to fat stores to help break them down so they can be burned as a fuel. Energy, or glucose, that feeds the cell, also increases body ability to utilize protein. It stops burning glucose as fuel. It becomes a fat burner. By burning fat, it gives twice the units of energy that the glucose will give. Okay. It also triggers an enzyme that gets released, that goes directly to fat store to help break them down so they can be burned as fuel. Thank you. But in order for this to be a good thing for your body, you have to eat an adequate plant-based protein, like a diet. The protein, the plant-based we just talked about. Very important to be mindful of the gastric juices, so there's enough hydraulic acid to break down those proteins. Hydraulic acid?
Oh, gastric juice.
That's the stomach, the acid in the stomach to break things down.
Hydrochloric acid.
Hydrochloric acid, yeah. To break it down. Very important to exercise every day, at least 30 seconds of intense workout or cardio, causing the release of human growth hormones for protein absorption. So that's the basic gist of the human growth hormones. It's talking about to assimilate the protein that we're eating into our system, which we really need.
Is that growth hormone something that slows down as we age? Or do you know?
We produce it, so does it? Well, muscles don't actually break down. My understanding is if you're like you can be 90 years old and your muscles are there, but you got to eat the protein to keep it going, the healthy protein. And you can exercise and you'll always have that. But when you're old and 90, you're going to not really have the energy to.
I thought she said growth hormone. Did you say growth
Human, yeah,
That
growth.
stops you around 21, 22. But then you have to be maintained. And I think once you hit 30 years of age, then you drop off 1% per year or something.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
heard that about, I could be wrong, but I heard that about the muscles, they just slightly deteriorate. If you're exercising, they'll
Yeah,
maintain.
that's what I'm saying. If you
Yeah.
exercise and keep the healthy protein, you can maintain until you're 90 years old without the deterioration. But you're right, but if you're not going to do it, then they're going to obviously
Yeah.
break down.
'Cause
And you,
most people get less and less and less active.
energy, even now, so exactly, yeah. And apparently on the market, you can buy a synthetic human growth hormone, but you have to get a doctor's thing to get it, to buy it, apparently. Prescription or something. Maybe it's, I was doing a little reading extra about that. But our body produces it, and it's just so simple if we're just getting the proper nutrients to make it a benefit for the body. So, recapping, did I read all this already? 30 minutes of exercise a day containing 20 minutes of aerobic and 30 seconds of intensive activity to kickstart you into aerobic push. As you start breathing heavier, getting more oxygen into blood, which carries to all the cells in your body. Cardio exercise is any exercise that raises your heart rate. Face, I don't know, face it. Okay, our bodies were made to move. And, sorry, I'm just reading this. And to keep our muscles in shape, we need to keep them moving. Like, we just need to keep exercising, keeping on the move. Movement makes them stronger. The stronger the muscles are, the more efficient your healthy body. And your heart is a muscle. Okay, so the last page, 6. Therefore, working out your muscles, your stronger cardiovascular system means more capillaries. I can never say that word. Can you say that? Capillaries. Delivering more oxygen to cells in your muscles. This enables your cells to burn more fat during both exercise and inactivity. And okay. Proverbs 4:23, keep the heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. How to keep the heart with all diligence, and out of the issues of life is the blood. Learn how to keep the blood clean and running smoothly in your heart, so your heart doesn't have to work so hard. the heart is a muscle and is made up of a whole lot of muscle cells. And I'm working on a paper that I want to get done real soon called Heart Health. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how the heart works and getting up your heart rate. So the slower your heart rate beats, I'm going to talk about that in the next paper, but it's better for you. You know, if your heart's constantly rapidly beating quickly, it's a sign that you got some problems in there.
So your heartbeat works 9 hours a day, rest the rest. And so the harder you work your heart, the longer the stroke, the more rest it gets.
Okay.
So the more fit you are, the more rest you're getting, which kind of sounds backward.
But it's okay, yeah.
Because that's what I used to do. I used to run in the mountains. I used to get my heart going as fast as you know, you try to time it. Got to the point where I couldn't time it anymore. So I don't know how many beats. It was like 100 beats a minute, 180 beats a minute or something.
Okay, child guidance, the physical constitutions of Jesus as well as his spiritual development is brought before us in these words. The child grew and increased in stature. In childhood and youth, attention should be given to physical development. Parents should train their children in good habits of eating and drinking, dressing, and exercise. That a good foundation will be laid for sound health and afterlife. The physical organism should have special care that the powers of the body may not be dwarfed, but develop to full extent. This places the children and youth in a favorable position so that with proper religious training, they may, like Christ, wax strong in spirit. Does someone want to read the last paragraph? Thank you. Loud.
In regard to that which we can do for ourselves, there is a point that requires careful, thoughtful consideration. I must become acquainted with myself. I must be a learner always as to how to take care of this building, the body God has given me, that I may preserve it in the very best condition of health. I must eat those things which will be for my very best good physically, and I must take special care to have my clothing such as will conduce to a healthful circulation of the blood. I must not deprive myself of exercise and air. I must get all the sunlight that it is possible for me to obtain. I must have wisdom to be a faithful guardian of my body.
That's a good quote. Thank you. So, I have another paper called Brain Health. We finish at 11, right? So I've got 12? Oh, okay. Oh, good. So hopefully I can get...
Your watch is DC time.
I know. I'm kind of one of those that don't do stuff like changing it. So Brain Health. This is a pretty nice paper. This is lots of good information in here. Everything we have ever heard everything we have ever heard is monitored in the brain. Everything we have ever seen is monitored in the brain. Everything we ever smell, it gives a message to the brain. And everything that goes into the mouth, whether it be food or drink, it has an effect on the brain. So pictures, movies, reading novels, like all the bad stuff, right? We have to get those thoughts out of our brain that have been put there in years past. An estimated 5.7 million Americans of all ages have Alzheimer's. An estimated 5.7 million Americans of all ages are living with Alzheimer's dementia. That's a big deal, and that's of all ages. In 2018, this number includes an estimated 5.5 million people aged 65 and older, and approximately 200,000 individuals under 65 who have younger onset Alzheimer's. These are huge statistics, I think. And I did on Canadian Alzheimer's and dementia statistics. It's considerably less than this. I was going back in my notes to try to stick it in here, but I couldn't find it again. I couldn't find it again on the internet, unfortunately.
What about on a per capita basis? What's the percentage? Is there Americans are like 10 times our
I know,
population.
there's a lot more people there. That's why it's a lot less in Canada, but our statistics are still quite high because we have the same diet. And the Alzheimer's is based on the diet. And then we're going to look into that. Dementia doesn't just happen overnight. It's an onset of years of abuse and bad habits over the years. The brain is the headquarters of the body. Everything that happens in the body affects the brain, and everything that happens in the brain affects the body. And I want to talk a little bit about the frontal lobe. The brain is divided into several sections or lobes. Each lobe has specific functions. Behind the forehead are the frontal lobes. For convenience, it is referred to both as the right and left frontal lobe, collectively as a frontal lobe. And I could draw a picture of the brain, but everybody has seen those pictures before, right? Okay. It is the largest lobe of the brain. It's the seat of judgment, reasoning, intellect, and will. It is the control center of our entire being. Some scientists refer to the frontal lobe as the crown of the brain, and studies show that the so-called crown performs a variety of vital functions. Spirituality, character, morality, and the will are the characteristics that give us our unique individuality. The Bible shows clearly the significance of the frontal lobe in knowing God. Revelation 22 says, 22:4, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. From a prophetic understanding, we have seen that when studying the entire prophetic message called the Hazon vision, that will lead us to see Christ face to face, called the Mare vision, which will humble us as one dead in the dust, called the Mara vision. God's character, his name, is reproduced in our character, the incarnation of divinity flashing through humanity, Christ in you, the hope of glory. I put that in there because we're going to see him face to face, and his name will be in our foreheads. And it's where he sits is what we're looking at about the frontal lobe. His name, his character, his throne sits in our frontal lobe. It's the crown of the brain. There are two lobes in the front of the brain known as the frontal lobe. Did I read this already? Both lobes have the same function. The frontal part is where the intellect is, where our reasoning powers are, also where our judgment takes place. It's also the front part of the brain where we make all our decisions. The function of the frontal lobe is where the will is the governing power in the nature of man is. It is the power of decision or our choice. Everything depends on the right action of the will. Steps to Christ. Do you want to read it, Joe, aloud?
Sure. And that part just above it is part of Steps to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to understand is the true force of the will. This is the governing power in the nature of man, the power of decision or of choice. Everything depends on the right action of the will. The power of choice God has given to men. It is theirs to exercise. You cannot change your heart. You cannot of yourself give to God its affections, but you can choose to serve him. You can give him your will. Then he will then work in you to will and to do according to his good pleasure. Thus your whole nature will be brought under the control of the Spirit of Christ. Your affections will be centered upon him. Your thoughts will be in harmony with him.
Thank you.
Steps to Christ 47.
So all the stuff that we've covered so far this week, all the quotes, all the other information, it's our choice. If we're going to implement the natural laws, the laws of health, and to do all those things to avoid being sick or getting sick, and staying healthy. Philippians 2:13, for it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do his good pleasure. This is child guidance. Every child should understand the power of the will. The will is the governing power of the nature of man, bringing all our faculties under its sway. The will is not the taste or the inclination, but it's a deciding power, thank you, but it's the deciding power which works in the children of men unto obedience to God or unto disobedience. It's always a choice. God doesn't force anything on us. The will is not a muscle, but it's just like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The mind and the nerve gain strength through exercise and the will. You want to say something? No.
So you said the will is a spiritual muscle.
You can say that, I guess, because the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Right? Obeying all the stuff that he wants us to obey, the 8 laws.
There's something I read about the will, that our choice is usually informed by what we perceive to be of most beneficial to us. So you're confronted with a situation, and then you have information based on the 2 choices that are in front of you, which one is going to benefit you the most. And then from there you bend your will to the choice that you take that you are convinced of that it will benefit you the most. And sometimes it's dangerous because you can be deceived.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to be deceived, and to bend towards, and of course now we have perception to see, and with perception now you can be deceived from that. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying.
Because it could be a selfish choice or a spiritual choice.
Yes.
So,
Just like Alison said, that either we obey the law, the law of nature, and we make that choice whether, even though we don't like it,
Mhm.
but because we exercise it,
Mhm.
then we become stronger in that choice. Yeah, but if we don't, then it becomes our choice. And then it's dangerous.
Yeah, and it's sad to notice that every choice you make, according to you, at that point, is what you think is the most beneficial to you, and that's why you actually do it. You bend your will to it, and that's why it's tough. If your choices are not being informed by the word of God,
It's putting his choice.
right, so that God can give you spiritual eyes and discernment. And that's what we talk about the cross. Like God gives us He forgives us our guilt, and He gives us a love of the truth. So that which I do, which I don't want to do, God
Amen.
gives me a love for it.
Exactly.
And then I bend my will.
And when you become converted, you don't sin anymore.
Yes.
Because you don't want to. So for the Zoom audience, there's a discussion going on in class about conforming our will to do it what He's asking us to do by choice. And if we don't, it's our choice, which involves consequences, basically. Is that right? And it's important not to follow other people, but to make our own choices on our own, wisely, right? The human brain, in the human brain, the frontal lobe takes up 33% of the brain. So that basically 1/3 of the brain is frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe does not fully develop until about age 30 years. Historically, a lot of men were not given positions of leadership until they were 30 years of age. Jesus began his ministry at the age of 30. Yeah, this is really interesting.
Even
Go ahead.
the priest. I
Uh-huh.
was thinking about that with the priest too.
Well, you're going to find out. It's in here.
I'm still here, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's good. Numbers 4:3. Katya, why don't you read all of these Bible quotes really loud for us? Nice and slow.
Numbers 4, verse 3. From 30 years old and upward, even until 50-year-old, all that enter into the host to do the work of the tabernacle of the congregation. 2 Samuel 5, verse 4. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 40 years. 2 Chronicles 23, verse 3. Now the Levites were numbered from the age of 30 years and upward, and their number by their polls, men by men, was 30 and 8,000. Luke 3, verse 23. And Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Eli.
Thank you. So,
He was baptized too.
starting his ministry, yeah. But you have to be 30 years old in the Bible times to have that role. And it says here, like scientists have shown that the frontal brain isn't developed until you're about 30 years of age. And the Bible is showing that the leaders in the Bible time, like Jesus and David, and the Levites and the priests, you had to be 30 years of age to minister, right? To have that your ministry's beginning, or minister in the sanctuary.
You know what's interesting is the frontal lobe capacity of a cat is 3.5%.
I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
You read the book too.
Well, I know a dog and cat and a chimpanzee, right?
Yeah, it's in here because we're comparing that with the human
One, the behavior
brain.
that they have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. Scientific studies shows that the frontal lobe is the seat of spirituality, morality, and the will. It is a very important part of the brain where God communicates to us. The power to discriminate between right and wrong we can possess only through individual dependence upon God. Each for himself is to learn for him through his word. Our reasoning powers were given us for use, and God desires them to be exercised. Now come, let us reason together. Isaiah 1:18. He invites us, in reliance upon him, we may have wisdom to refuse the evil and choose the good. The frontal lobe is where God is reasoning with us. Brain size and function is the next thing we're looking at. What Wayne was saying. Brain size and function. Interestingly, the frontal lobe differs among men and various animals. It is the frontal lobe that largely sets humans apart from the rest of the animal kingdom. Those with the smallest frontal lobes have limited instinct-driven ways of life. Those with larger frontal lobes are able to perform more complex functions. Cats with only 3.5 frontal lobe are limited to judgment and reasoning powers. They rely only on instinct. So they don't have judgment and reasoning skills. They can just do things by instinct, like the cat and mouse chase. Dogs have 7.5. Dogs are more trainable. And chimpanzees have 17%. And we've seen what chimpanzees can do. They're kind of neat. But humans have 33 to 38% of frontal lobe capacity. Genesis 1:26, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the flesh of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So we were made in his image, and then he gave us our work to be in control over all the critters of the earth. God created man, not just the eyes, the limbs, the nose, and the body, but also the brain. It's the frontal lobe of the brain where God communicates with us and sets man far higher than any other creature. So the enemy of souls wants to destroy the frontal lobe more than any part of the body, and he's being very successful at doing that today. One of the biggest things that will destroy the frontal lobe is sugar. Not the natural healthy cane juice we were talking about the other day, right? We're squeezing that out of the sugar cane stalk. That stuff's good, but it's the pure crystallized acid that is extracted from the sugar plant, refined into white crystals. It is closely related to heroin, and it's related to the poppy plant, as it's related to the poppy
I
plant.
thought it was cocaine it was related to.
Yeah, I know. What it's saying is here, it is as closely related to heroin. Isn't heroin made from cocaine?
Well, I always thought
No?
I always thought the chemical structure of cocaine and sugar are virtually the same.
Oh, it's cocaine, not heroin. Well, okay, they're both just as bad.
Oh, yeah.
And you're right, cocaine comes from poppy plants.
No,
Huh?
cocaine comes from the cocaine leaf.
The what?
Cocaine leaf.
What comes from poppy?
Poppies is
Heroin.
morphine.
Heroin.
Morphine.
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 Okay.
The opiates come from the poppy.
Opiates come
Yeah,
from the poppy.
opiates, that's morphine is opiate.
Okay, but they're all really bad, and that's what sugar is related to, so it's bad.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Question. The lemon poppy seeds, is it related to the poppy plant? Just asking.
I don't know what lemon poppy is.
The poppy
lemon
seed,
poppy seeds?
yes,
Oh, it's
the
poppy
poppy
seed, not
seed,
lemon.
yes, but the amount of opiate in a poppy seed is so minuscule, but there are people who will take it to the extreme. Poppy seeds are okay. Really fine.
I think the poppy seeds we get in the grocery store today are already, they go through a zapping process where they kill all the good stuff in it anyhow, because
Concentrated.
something like, I don't think you're going to get your high off of a poppy-covered bagel or anything.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry.
Bake with it a lot.
Pardon me?
Like we bake like lemon poppy seed cake.
Okay.
So
But if athletes do get tested and they ate poppy seeds, they
I've heard
will
about that before.
be whatever,
Eliminated.
penalized or eliminated, whatever.
That's true, I've heard
Just
about
for
that.
eating poppy seeds, because there's minuscule
Minuscule.
amount of that
okay.
Yeah.
opiates in there.
So maybe you want to cut back on your lemon poppy cake. And for other reasons, because it is still cake.
No, Kelly said it's okay.
Well, let's stick to the facts anyways. So I have it here, it's as closely related to heroin as it is related to the poppy plant. Most people don't realize how dangerous it is and how addicting it is, and it is addicting. And I know it's addicting because I don't eat sugar anymore. I don't eat no ounce of sugar. I check my ingredients. If it has sugar in it, I don't touch it, period. And I went through a withdrawal stage of my addiction to sugar, because we're all addicted to it. And literally, like, I was, after you eat a savory, my second meal of the day, well, savory. After you eat something savory, shrooby, I had a craving for something sweet afterwards, right? Like dessert, like we're all accustomed to that, right? But not doing and not eating that sugary or whatever it was, just didn't do it. Black licorice was my thing. For the longest time, I always liked black licorice after a meal because it was my favorite, but I don't touch black licorice anymore. And now I've gotten to the point where I don't even, like, the desire is still there, but I have no desire to go after something sweet after my savory meal. But it's taken months. It doesn't happen overnight. Joe, you got some
Because
testimony
you purposed
too.
in your heart that you didn't want
I
it
was
anymore.
convicted it's wrong to eat sugar, like in that way, exactly, because it's unhealthy.
So in what changes, have you noticed any changes in your way you think or anything, or
Yeah, I'm,
better memory or what? Or
well, I'm doing, yeah, we'll talk about that after, like, let's not get it on video. Go ahead.
No, I want to talk the same question. but
Oh,
we can talk about
okay,
it.
I can tell you. I don't know. I don't want to take up too much time, but yeah.
Talk about it later.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. I have a question.
Yes, please. No, talk about it now.
Just wondered about molasses.
Oh,
Is
molasses?
that considered
Blackstrap molasses, well, it has some good properties in it. It has iron in it, and it's not sugar, but it's a refined thing anyways. I don't have enough information about molasses, I'm sorry.
It does have its concentration of natural sugar.
Exactly, it's a lot better than your table sugar. Like, we don't eat white refined sugar, right? And I don't have an index on all the different types of sugars you can choose over white sugar. Like, there's
Demerara?
honey.
Yeah, that's in here. No, that's in my diabetes paper. But yeah, there's lots of alternatives to sugar you can have. And there's also other types of sugar, like there's crystallized sugar, there's, what did
Demerara,
Demerara, turbinate, there's also the coconut
Stevia?
sugar, stevia. Stevia is a plant though, and honey, and there's just other things you can choose.
I wanted to write all those you said, Demerara.
Okay.
Can you just say that again?
There's Demerara, succinate, turbinado. There's different types, and those are probably more they're kind of a beige color, so they're less processed.
Exactly, they're browner color,
Yeah.
and they're stickier
Yeah.
somewhat. They
Yeah.
clump more.
They're just not as refined.
Not as refined, exactly.
So when the sugar goes in the bloodstream, it causes the blood cells to stick, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the problems, so then it cuts off. If you have a blood vessel that can only accommodate one, if you have a blood, like a vein thing, right? You only have one blood cell, it can go down. If they're sticking at where it's supposed to enter, then you're gonna be cut off the oxygen or getting rid of the waste. Like in your lungs especially.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get back to this now. Our brain cells, where am I? Okay, so it causes sugar levels to raise dramatically. This is what causes children to bounce off the walls. But your children aren't eating sugar, and I made a comment. Yeah, I know. I made a comment to, I don't know, was it you yesterday? These children aren't getting sugar, so they're naturally hyper. They got good genes. Okay, so anyways, but no, your children are not bouncing off the walls in comparison to what I've seen with children that just eat an ice cream cone or a chocolate bar and they're just going ballistic. And all of those, it's actually in here, I wrote it in here, but all your reasoning and your judgment and all of that is just shot because they don't listen. It's much different. It's totally a different ball game. Our brain cells, sorry?
No, I was just wondering what exactly happens. So when they take the sugar, it raises their blood sugar. They have so much energy. That's why they bounce off the walls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Our brain cells are consuming 15 times the fuel more than any other cell in the body. That's why blood sugar goes up. Insulin levels bring it down. How long does it take before intellect, reasoning, judgment, and will are not working? It takes 2 minutes. For a child that eats something sugary, it takes 2 minutes for the reasoning, judgment, and will to stop working. And insulin, we produce insulin. Where does the insulin get produced again? I can't remember offhand. Pancreas, yeah, that's right. So our bodies produce insulin to bring down those sugar levels. But I'm not talking about diabetes right now, so I don't want to get into that directly. I'm talking about what it's affecting with the brain. Hybridized wheat, okay, this is another thing that, like sugar, that destroys the frontal lobe. Hybridized wheat. Hybridized wheat in the 1950s was created in the 1950s and it went worldwide in the 1970s. And I have a book upstairs and you're welcome to look at it while you're here. It's called The Wheat Belly. Perhaps you've heard of it. There's a chapter in there that explains about the hybridized wheat production and why it was created. And I have the story in here actually, so we'll read it anyways in this paper. So those are two things that destroy the frontal lobe, and we'll go into more detail. On page 3, page 5 at the top. I have my numbers on the 5 at the top. This is the discussion about how hybridized wheat was created. CIMMYT was an organization, grew out of a pilot program sponsored by the Mexican government and the Rockefeller Foundation in the 40s and 50s, aimed at raising farm productivity in Mexico because there was a hunger shortage of food at the time. The wheat specialist in the program, Norman Borlaug, worked with Mexican researchers and farmers to develop hardier, short-stemmed wheat varieties and resisted devastating rust diseases and yielded much more grain than the traditional varieties. The new wheat line were bred and selected at various Mexican locations in a range of climate conditions, which meant that they were adaptable to a range of farm settings. The higher yielding variety helped Mexico attain self-sufficiency in wheat production in the 50s. Additionally, the varieties were imported to India and Pakistan in the 60s to stave off famine, soon bringing those countries record harvests. This led to widespread adoption of improved varieties and farming practices which became known as Green Revolution. The Green Revolution. CIMMYT was formally launched as an international organization in 1966. Borlaug, who worked at CIMMYT as a wheat scientist and research leader until 1979, received in 1970 a Nobel Peace Prize because more than any other single person had helped to provide bread for a hungry world. He remained a distinguished consultant for the center until his death in 2009. So that's the history of the hybridized wheat, and that's one problem that destroys the frontal lobe. And there's another thing in here that talks. It's really. I want to make sure I don't get ahead of myself with my details, but I'm talking about it's really not gluten that's the problem, in other words. And a lot of people are saying gluten intolerant, right? Can't eat this because it's got gluten, or can't eat wheat or whatever. That's not the problem. It's the hybridized. It's the genetically modifying the wheat berry to produce a higher yield that's allowing it to be pest-free, like the bugs don't eat it, and disease-free, like the rust disease that the wheat can get. And it also grows much more in volume. And if you ever see a picture pre-1950s of wheat fields, they grow 6 feet tall, right? The wheat used to grow 6 feet tall traditionally, the good stuff, but now it grows knee-high or so in all the fields around, right?
Yeah.
And but I want to go into this next historic fact about another part about the wheat gluten. In the 1800s, a new way of milling the wheat berries into a fine white flour after stripping away the nutrients of vitamins. In 1870, the invention of modern steel roller mill, revolutionizing the grain milling. Compared to the old way of stone method, it was fast and efficient and gave fine control over the various parts of the kernel. Instead of just mashing it all together, one could separate the component parts, allowing the purest and finest of the white flour to be easily produced at low cost. So every class of person in rapidly growing cities could now afford fancy flour. People rejoiced from modern progress. So this is from Wikipedia. It says, from a human nutrition standpoint, it is ironic that wheat milling methods to produce white flour eliminate those portions of the wheat kernel. Bran, germ, shorts, and red dog mill streams. I don't know what that is. That are the richest in proteins, vitamins, lipids, and minerals. Oh, I guess that's the part of the grain. They destroyed the nutritious part, exactly, by the milling process, because it eliminated that. For 10,000 years, we cultivated wheat, stored it, milled it, and consumed it. The system worked, and it nourished civilizations. Then the industrial era, we changed things. So in the 1800s, I think it was the 1870s, actually, yeah, in 1870 is when they invented this modern Steeler roller mill, and when it grinded up the wheat, the good wheat at that time, because it wasn't hybridized at that time, but they separated all the good stuff and left you with the junky white flour, the refined flour, and that's what we have today,
Like,
is white flour.
like Wonder Bread.
Right. Oh, that stuff's
So wonder why they
toxic.
call it bread.
But then also, and now today if you buy a brown bread loaf, you'll read the package, like dumpsters or damsters.
Yes.
Dempsters.
Dumpsters.
So
Funny.
if you read the ingredients, it will tell you that it's fortified with niacin, riboflavins. What was some of the other stuff you said, Joe, earlier? You and I had this conversation earlier this
the
week.
bran and the germ.
The bran and the
all that.
germ, all that stuff is put back into it. So,
But
The laptop stuff.
so
No, it's fine.
anyway, these are the two things that's making wheat toxic for us today. It's hybridization back in the 50s, and then back in the 1800s when they refined it into white flour, right?
Whole wheat bread.
I haven't gotten into good whole wheat bread. Sprouted grains, is that what you're asking?
Because it still has been transformed.
It's still hybridized, yes.
It's still hybridized.
It's still hybridized, today's wheat.
Yeah.
That's
I
why
know.
so many people have.
And that's why a lot of people have gluten-free problems. And I'm not getting myself diagnosed. I don't see the point because I know the effect that I have. I get foggy head, can't concentrate, I got pains, yeah,
When you eat bread.
bloating, yeah. And I don't even eat gluten-free bread. I just, I want to cut it out. I'm not 100% gluten-free, but I'm really working in that direction to become 100% gluten-free. Like sugar, it's a hard thing to give up.
Is gluten
Sorry.
in all the grains?
It depends.
In grains, it depends, but let me ask Douglas. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make a quick comment about the white flour, because back in the day, only the rich could afford the white, because the white flour, because then they don't have to work all the bran and everything, their stomachs to work so hard. Something like that was an easy, like digestion for them. And all the poor people were eating the brown bread and with all the stuff that they were doing. And then after some time, of course, everyone wants to be on the same level. So now it reversed. So now, like all the rich people are eating the brown bread and everything, like a nice thing.
And yeah, and the same with white rice, the same thing, you know, everybody wanted white rice, and white rice is the same process. It strips it, it bleaches it, and they take out all the bran and the good stuff that brown rice produces. And everywhere you go in the world, they serve white rice, and that's bad. You want your brown rice. So what was your question?
And the grains, all the grains, are they all got gluten in them, or is it just
Yeah, like
like whole, like oats?
I wanted to. I don't know if it's in this paper, but I wanted to talk about the different grains. Hybridized wheat is the worst. You want to get organic wheat if you can find it, and I know you can find it. I mean, Silver Hills makes bread, and
It's organic?
it's organic. They sprout it. It's the better of the better.
So Silver Hills bread is okay?
I still don't eat it though because it still makes me feel bad.
I think all wheat that we know of is hybridized.
It's probably tainted somehow.
It changed.
Yeah,
During that era, that happened, and
because this is
everything
spread
was
worldwide.
affected.
Yeah.
But I guess you'll tell us the other sources.
Well, I heard there was 1,000 species, different types of
Yeah, I
wheat
don't
Yes.
have all those details right.
at the turn of the century, and there's only like 5 or 6 left.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know there's seed
Yeah,
exchanges.
There's spelt
Mm.
flour.
Spelt still has gluten in
Yeah,
it,
it has gluten,
but it's
not
an old grain.
hybridized.
That's right, it's an old grain. And kamut is
the
another one.
kamut And there's incorn.
Icorn.
Rye.
Yeah, that.
And
Rye?
I don't know.
I don't know about rye either. It does have a gluten content in it, but it's different too.
I know that oats doesn't have gluten because there's a friend of ours has a celiac boy who's gluten intolerant, he can eat oats.
Oh, wow.
As long as it was milled where there wasn't wheat.
Right, and there's a lot of people like
That's what
that.
they call gluten-free oats, as long as it wasn't milled in a plant where they do wheat as well, then they call it gluten-free oats.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, there's some good historical information why wheat is not good, but I'm choosing to cut it out of my system. Did I read that paragraph at the bottom?
No, you didn't. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, it carries over on page 6. Read it loud, please, and slow. Loud.
First, we invented mechanical technologies to turn wheat into barren white flour. Then we invented chemical and genetic technologies to make it resistant to pests, drought, and blight, and easier to harvest, dramatically increasing yield per acre. And while we were tweaking genetics, we also figured out how to increase glutens for better baking properties, fluffier results. Put another way, we have mutant seeds grown in synthetic soil, bleached and chemically treated. They're deconstructed, pulverized into fine dust, bleached and chemically and treated, become a barren industrial filler that no other creature on the planet will eat, and we wonder why it might be making us sick.
And
It's not my fault.
yeah, okay. So, that was page 6. Sorry. So the number 3, the third thing that destroys the frontal lobe. So first it was sugar. We talked about white crystallized sugar. Then we talked about hybridized wheat that destroys the frontal lobe. And the third is caffeine. So caffeine undermines the function of the frontal lobe. It has, I should check my time. No, I'm going to 12. I'm fine. Oh, I am 12. I'm sorry. Tabo's not up there. So, okay,
You stop there.
I have to stop here at number 3. Caffeine will pick this up tomorrow. And then let's pray. Okay, sorry everyone. Heavenly Father, thank you for every blessing and thank you for the study on brain health. This is really good information. Thank you for providing it. Bless each one of us that we come to terms with our own individual bodies, what's right and wrong for us, and how we want to best glorify you with all things that we're learning every day. Thank you for your mercy and your love for the sunshine today, and continue to bless us throughout our time here. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen.